Now we are going to start testing the methods that are actually calling PHP script, which communicates with the database, obviously saves, removes, updates, records. So we're going to start with a new describe block, and this describe block, what we're going to be putting for the description, I'm going to put something like shopping list controller http methods test. You can obviously put descriptions are entirely up to you, whatever you find more suitable for yourself later on to recognize. But you can put absolutely anything here, basically. Then comma and function. And inside of this function, what we are going to do, we're going to start with the variables. First one will be scope. Next one will be HTTP. Then we're going to have HTTP backend. Then comma, log, helper, factory, and then we have shopping list controller. Next thing we're going to do is to create before each loop. So before each of the tests, we want the following code to be executed. First of all, we need to call our my app module. So module and in the brackets my app. Then we go for the injection. Inject and then function. And this function will take quite a few arguments. So let me scroll up a little bit. The first one will be root scope, same way as previously, to create a new scope for our controller. Then underscore HTTP underscore. We're using underscores, as I've explained earlier, to distinguish between our internal variables and the actual arguments sent to the controller. So this is obviously Jasmine will remove this underscores later on. It recognizes it basically, and it knows that obviously underscores should be removed. Then we go for the underscore $HTTP backend and underscore. And now this HTTP backend is Angular's mock, basically, which allows us to create fake AJAX calls, basically. Rather than actually calling the database, waiting for the response, and so on, we can use this HTTP backend and return data we want to return, basically, as hard-coded, basically, data. So we can return the array type, the array we want to be returned, basically, for our test. So this is how we're going to be using this here inside of our test. Then we go for the log, so underscore log underscore, and then we go for underscore helper factory underscore, then we go for controller. So these are all of the arguments. We start with the scope, which equals root scope, and we want to create the new one. Then we go for, actually, let's put it next to each other. So HTTP equals underscore HTTP. Then we have HTTP backend equals HTTP backend. Then we have log, which equals underscore log underscore. And then the last one is helper factory, which equals underscore helper factory underscore. Okay, so these are our internal variables, and now all associated. Next thing, we're going to create the first call. Now we need to create this first call because our application, when the page first loads and our my app module is created, we automatically call the read method or select method, basically, which selects all the records and displays them on a page. That's why we need to use this HTTP backend to create this fake call. Basically, we're going to use when get, and we specify the URL, which is modselect.php. Then respond with the following data, and we're going for items, which is what we would get if we were calling this specific method, and we'd get them in a JSON format, obviously, and items, and then we go for all items. So we've got ID 1, item apples, for instance, you can put any data you want here, because this is just for the testing purposes. Obviously, quantity 1, then we use type 2, and done. We're going to set to 0. Now, if we copy this line, obviously comma after this. Now ID will be 2, because it's a unique ID, obviously, of each record. Bread for the item, quantity 1, type 1, and let's make it completed. Okay, items. After items, we're going to have types, which we also return with this first call. So types, and again, this is the array. And for types, we're going to have ID 1, and the name will be quantity, and then comma. Another one, ID will be 2, name will be kg for kilograms. So that's what we would get when the get method is calling this specific URL. So that's what we're going to be returning when we call at any time when we call this select. And because obviously when we load the page, we straight away call this URL, that's what we're going to have returned. Now, after this HTTP backend when get, if we create a few new lines, and obviously shopping controller, list controller equals controller, then we specify the name of our controller, which is obviously shopping list controller, and then the object with our arguments. We get scope, which is the scope which we're going to be using within our test. Then HTTP, which will be HTTP. Then we go for log, which will be log, and helper factory, which will be helper factory. Well, obviously all of these are our variables here defined earlier, obviously after the described definition. Okay, so that's everything for our before each statement. Let's move to the next video and start with our tests.